On Wednesday, the 23rd of August, reports started to circulate that Prigozhin was in a plane crash. He had spearheaded a short-lived mutiny against Putin in June. So the timeline of his death has raised suspicious eyebrows as to who assassinated Prigozhin. Some people are looking at Putin's leadership. Putin himself is no stranger to assassination attempts. He has escaped assassination attempts an astonishing 43 times. While his number might not beat or does not even come close to the 600 attempts on Fidel Castro, it is still an astonishing number. Hell, most people only have one chance, just like Prigozhin. And 43 attempts is an unbelievably high number, so for the doubters or the curious, in this video, I'm going to break down how Vladimir Putin survived 43 assassination attempts. Number 1. Spend heavy on security. One of the most astonishing aspects of Putin's security detail is the sheer amount of resources dedicated to keeping him safe. The Federal Protective Service, the FSO, is at the heart of this operation. Reflecting years of expertise inherited from the Soviet-era KGB, this agency has evolved over time, absorbing various government bodies under its wings, leading to the consolidation of power that now grants them control over the allocation of Russia's financial resources. General Dmitry Koknev stands as the enigmatic figure at the helm of the FSO. The exact budget of the FSO remains shrouded in secrecy, but its influence is undeniable. Estimates suggest the agency commands a significant annual budget, potentially totaling $2.7 billion. This financial power is coupled with an extensive workforce comprised of at least 50,000 dedicated individuals. It's estimated that Putin's security budget is unlike any other in the world. And for good reason. With a staggering 43 documented assassination attempts, it's clear that there are countless threats to his life. As a result, the Federal Protective Service, or FSO, leaves no stone unturned when it comes to allocating funds for his security. From cutting-edge surveillance technology to a highly trained team of elite agents, no expense is spared. The FSO's reach extends to every conceivable aspect of protection, encompassing secure transportation, state-of-the-art communication systems, and comprehensive background checks on anyone who comes into contact with the president. The FSO's control over the Russian budget grants them a level of autonomy that few other agencies enjoy. This autonomy ensures that the agency can channel resources to where they are needed most, without bureaucratic red tape. This consolidation of power and resources has transformed the FSO into a force to be reckoned with, not only in terms of security, but also in the realm of national influence. Indeed, Putin's background as a former KGB agent has likely contributed to his awareness of the potential threats that can arise from within his own circles. As a result, he strategically diversifies his security measures to minimize vulnerabilities. This principle is evident not only in his personal approach, but also in his management of the security apparatus as a whole. The National Guard, an entity established directly by Putin himself, serves as a countermeasure to the growing power of the Federal Protective Service, with over 1 million troops under its command. This force is a formidable entity that directly answers to the president. Its primary role is to deter any aspirations of a military coup or internal power struggle. This move demonstrates Putin's recognition of the need to balance power dynamics within his security structure. While the National Guard's annual upkeep comes at a significant cost to Russian taxpayers, Putin sees it as a worthwhile investment in maintaining stability and preventing internal challenges to his authority. The substantial budget allocated to this force reflects the seriousness with which Putin takes his role in ensuring the security of his nation. The National Guards is also an attempt to project an image of strength and deterrence. By showcasing a robust military force, Putin aims to discourage any high-ranking officials, whether military or civilian, from considering actions that could undermine his leadership. Even figures like the late Evgeny Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner, could not come close if he tried. However, when it comes to directly addressing immediate threats and ensuring Putin's physical safety, it is the President's Security Service SBP that takes center stage. This unit, also known as the Служба безопасности президента России, is specially trained and equipped to handle the protection of the Russian president. Their meticulous selection process, intensive training, and specialized skills allow them to operate both discreetly and effectively. Delving even deeper, Putin's personal security detail, the SBP, is a multifaceted unit trained to perfection. These highly skilled operatives possess a lethal mandate to eliminate perceived threats. Their training, selection process, and operational details remain a closely guarded secret. The selection process to become a member of this elite force is incredibly rigorous. Potential candidates undergo extensive background checks, psychological evaluations, and rigorous physical tests to ensure they possess the necessary qualities to fulfill their duties effectively. The closest bodyguards are not only chosen for their physical prowess, but also for their loyalty, quick decision-making skills, and ability to remain calm under immense pressure. Once selected, these bodyguards undergo continuous and specialized training, honing their skills in marksmanship, hand-to-hand combat, tactical maneuvers, and emergency response. Their role requires them to be adaptable and ready to face any situation that might threaten the president's safety. The secrecy surrounding the SBP's operations is paramount, as the element of surprise is crucial for ensuring the president's protection. Their vigilant presence is felt both in the background and at the forefront. When Putin travels within Russia, the Special Bodyguard Service, SBP, orchestrates multiple layers of protection to secure his route. Accompanied by a motorcade that resembles a military parade, his limousine is a mobile fortress. The Ares Senate, Russia's answer to his security needs, is a technological marvel designed to withstand an array of threats, making it clear that no risks are taken when it comes to his safety. This mobile fortress, created to Putin's exact specifications, is a testament to his commitment to limiting reliance on Western products. With an investment of over 18 million rubles, which is equivalent to 300,000 pesos, it boasts unparalleled fortifications that can withstand bullets of any caliber, sniper fire, landmines, chemical gas attacks, and even small-scale missile assaults. The Ares Senate is not just a vehicle, it's a high-tech command center on wheels. Equipped with cutting-edge communication systems, the limousine ensures that the security team inside remains connected and informed at all times. Even when the windows are fully sealed, an advanced closed-circuit television CCTV system provides a comprehensive 360-degree view of the surrounding perimeter, enhancing the security team's situational awareness. Aside from the devices installed in Russia to protect him, he also employs private military contractors. Some of them include the Enot Corps, Patriot, Redut, Fakkel, Slavonic Corps, and the Wagner groups. Of all of these groups, the Wagner group stands out. They first appeared in 2014, during the annexation of Crimea by Russia, and since then have not held back. They have been involved in wars in Africa, the Middle East, and South America. What Putin wants us to think is that it was founded by Prigozhin himself, he claimed. I cleaned the old weapons myself, sorted out the bulletproof vests myself, and found specialists who could help me with this. From that moment on, May 1, 2014, a group of patriots was born, which later came to be called the Wagner Battalion. While he himself has no military background, he often relied on Utkin, who is also presumed dead, to command the Wagner's operations. However, there is a concession that groups like Wagner are being used as a proxy by Putin and the Russian state to have plausible deniability for military operations abroad to hide the true casualties of Russian foreign interventions. The Wagner Group has gained notoriety for its involvement in various conflicts and allegations of serious human rights violations. Wagner operatives have been accused of committing war crimes, including murder, torture, rape, and robbery against civilians, as well as torturing and killing those accused of desertion. This private military contractor played a significant role in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, notably recruiting Russian prison inmates for frontline combat. The Wagner Group's strength in Ukraine reportedly grew substantially over time, ranging from an initial estimate of 1,000 operatives to potentially as many as 20,000 to 50,000 by the end of 2022. Evgeny Prigozhin, the founder of the Wagner Group, would later in June 2023 try to topple the Putin government and go face-to-face with Putin himself. Number 2. Eliminate rivals. Citing the growing powers of the Wagner Group, Putin decided that it was time for the Wagner Group, a group he has repeatedly claimed before 2021 that he was not linked to become integrated into the Russian army. Prigozhin would refuse to do so, as it would make him subordinate to men he disdained. Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, and the chief of the general staff, Valery Gerasimov. There was a period of mounting tensions between the Russian Ministry of Defense and Evgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group. Prigozhin, once a supporter of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, had taken a bold step. He publicly criticized Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov. He held them accountable for Russia's perceived military shortcomings, accusing them of yielding Russian territories to Ukraine. In a daring move, Prigozhin laid blame at the feet of high-ranking military officials, alleging their decisions had compromised Russia's national interests. He not only criticized, but also accused them of orchestrating a handover of Russian territories to Ukraine. This criticism struck a chord, resonating within a military hierarchy already marred by internal tensions. An invasion based on lies. That is according to a stunning tirade from Evgeny Prigozhin. Amidst these escalating tensions, the Wagner Group staged a dramatic rebellion. On June 23, 2023, they took action, asserting their power and challenging the established order. Prigozhin framed the rebellion as a response to an alleged attack on his forces by the Ministry of Defense. He demanded that Shoigu and Gerasimov be handed over to him, revealing the depth of the power struggle. On June 24, 2023, Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed the nation in a televised speech. With gravity in his words, he denounced the actions of the Wagner Group as nothing short of treason. Putin's words resonated across the nation, reinforcing his commitment to maintaining stability and control. He pledged to quell the rebellion. Their plan initially was not to go into an all-out war in Moscow, but to capture the Defense Minister Shoigu and the General Staff Gerasimov when they planned to visit the southern region of Russia that borders Ukraine. Even though the plan had a good chance to be successful, it was not set into motion as before they could take any actions they were discovered. This made Prigozhin set into motion a plan B. This time he was going to march to Moscow to see Putin himself. Prigozhin likely informed senior military officials about his plan. Russian National Guard commander Viktor Zolotov stated that authorities knew of the planned rebellion between June 22 and June 25. According to Medusa, conveying anonymous accounts, said that there is the possibility that the security services didn't have the nerve to tell the president that something's up with Prigozhin because if they reported the problem, decisions would have to be made. And how would you make that decision? Then Wagner refused to integrate themselves into the regular military. There was some bad foreboding spread in the air that something was about to happen. But when they discussed it in the meeting, they decided to call a bluff on his coup cries, citing that they saw him as a daring opportunist who doesn't play by the rules. When it came to the risk of an armed insurrection, they thought it was nil. As tensions escalated and the Russian military complacent, Prigozhin's forces made their move. They seized control of Rostov-on-Don and infiltrated the headquarters of the Southern Military District within the city. The sudden takeover sent shockwaves through the region. It was at this moment that Putin was awakened to the situation. Prior to that, they thought things would fizzle out on its own. Kremlin officials and Putin initially saw Prigozhin as an audacious opportunist, downplaying the risk of insurrection. Their belief that Prigozhin's announcement was a bluff changed once Wagner captured Rostov-on-Don. Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, indicated that both he and Putin underestimated the situation, thinking it would naturally fade. In a remarkable show of force, an armored column of Wagner troops set its sights on the heart of Russia, Moscow. With determination in their ranks, these rebels armed with mobile anti-aircraft systems advanced through Voronezh Oblast, undeterred by the Russian military's air attacks. The column's progress defied expectations, even as the skies rained fire. The Russian military concentrated their ground defenses along the path towards Moscow, anticipating Wagner's approach. The scene was set for a potential clash of titanic proportions, but destiny had different plans. Moscow's mayor, backed by Putin, declared a counter-terrorism operations regime in the city, increasing security presence and contemplating a curfew. Putin started to gather armored vehicles and security forces around Moscow. Flights out of Moscow sold out as people sought to escape, and Putin's airplane took off from Moscow, though he wasn't on board. Putin then imposed travel restrictions in nearby Kaluga Oblast. He instructed the FSB to raid Wagner's headquarters in St. Petersburg, where they allegedly found cash, handguns, gold bars, and more. Prigozhin claimed the cash was for salaries and global operations. Prigozhin's media holding offices were also raided. Russian journalist Olga Romanova accused the FSB and Putin of threatening Wagner recruits' families. The Daily Telegraph reported similar threats by Russian intelligence during Wagner's advance on Moscow. On June 24, 2023, Prigozhin reportedly attempted to contact Putin, but Putin would not even talk to him or see him, knowing that he was too protected for the Wagner group to touch him. He was very confident of his protection, but eventually negotiations were led by Vino, Patrushev, and Gryzlov, as Prigozhin insisted on high-ranking officials' involvement. Since Putin was angry at Prigozhin and refused to even speak to him, Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, stepped in as a mediator upon Putin's request. Lukashenko, the president of Belarus, and Prigozhin brokered an agreement where Wagner forces would halt and return in exchange for safety. The president of Belarus had this to say about the event. I said Zhenya, the diminutive for Yevgeny. No one will give you either Shoigu or Gerasimov, especially in this situation. You know Putin as well as I do. Secondly, he will not only not meet with you, he will not talk to you on the phone due to this situation. Prigozhin was silent at first, but then burst out. But we want justice. They want to strangle us. We'll go to Moscow, I said. Halfway there, you'll just be crushed like a bug. Soon enough, Prigozhin announced in an audio statement that he had accepted the deal to prevent any bloodshed. He said they wanted to disband the Wagner military company. We embarked on a march of justice on June 23. In 24 hours, we got to within 200 kilometers of Moscow. In this time, we did not spill a single drop of our fighters' blood. Now the moment has come when blood could be spilled, understanding responsibility for the chance that Russian blood will be spilled on one side. We are turning our columns around and going back to field camps as planned. On June 24, around 11 p.m., Wagner Group began withdrawing from Rostov-on-Don. Residents cheered their departure, and Prigozhin was even greeted by some. Prigozhin's response to the outcome was lighthearted. On June 25, Wagner forces also withdrew from Voronezh and reportedly returned to eastern Ukraine. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov stated charges against Prigozhin would be dropped. He'd go to Belarus, and Wagner fighters wouldn't face prosecution. Those not involved in the rebellion could sign with the Ministry of Defense, and Wagner's deployment would revert. Putin's office thanked Lukashenko for his role in ending the rebellion. On July 4, even the 10 billion rubles in cash seized by Putin was returned to Prigozhin, with no details on the seized gold and powder earlier seized from his office in Petersburg. But everyone else knows this is not how these things work. You do not just declare a coup or mutiny and say, "Oops, sorry. May I go back now?" No, that is not how it works, which makes a lot of people suspicious about Putin's decision to let Prigozhin go. And for a while it seemed that was exactly what Putin was trying to do. And even Prigozhin could not be that naive. But then on the 23rd of August, 2023, Prigozhin boarded a plane on his way to God knows where from God knows where. Putin himself reportedly last saw him in Russia, and they had both planned to go to Africa. As far as I'm aware, he only yesterday returned from Africa. He met certain official persons there, halfway between Moscow and Petersburg. Prigozhin's plane was seen plummeting to the ground with a trail of smoke, and the rest is history. People are not even sure if he was on the plane, but the records of people on the plane show Yevgeny Prigozhin as a passenger. There are speculations that Putin let Prigozhin live this long just to know which of his generals were complicit in the coup. Number 3. Consolidate power. Putin has survived death so many times, and if you looked at his background, you can tell that he was trained to do just that. Putin's career began as a KGB foreign intelligence officer, where he spent 16 years and attained the rank of lieutenant colonel. In May 1990, he began his role as an advisor on international affairs to Anatoly Sobchak, the mayor of Leningrad. However, Putin's trajectory took a turn in 1991 after he resigned from the KGB due to his disagreement with the coup against Mikhail Gorbachev. He didn't want to be associated with the new administration's intelligence activities. In the aftermath, Putin considered working as a private taxi driver to supplement his income. Subsequently, on June 28, 1991, he assumed leadership of the Committee for External Relations of the Mayor's Office. This role involved fostering international relations, attracting foreign investments, and overseeing business registrations. Within a year, an investigation led by Marina Salio of the City Legislative Council scrutinized Putin for alleged misconduct, including understated prices and allowing the export of metals in exchange for unfulfilled food aid. Despite the recommendation to remove him, Putin remained in his position until 1996, from 1994 to 1996. He held various political and governmental posts in St. Petersburg. During this period, Putin's roles included being appointed as the first deputy chairman of the government of St. Petersburg in March 1994. He also organized the St. Petersburg branch of the pro-government Our Home Russia political party, associated with Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin. This liberal party held power, and he managed its legislative election campaign in 1995, while leading its St. Petersburg branch until June 1997. On August 9, 1999, Putin became one of 3 first deputy prime ministers, and later that day, he was appointed as the acting prime minister of the government of the Russian Federation by President Yeltsin. Yeltsin indicated his desire for Putin to succeed him, and Putin agreed to run for the presidency. On August 16, Putin's appointment as prime minister was approved by the State Duma with 233 votes in favor, surpassing the required majority of 226, although initially underestimated. Putin's law and order image gained traction after the September 1999 Russian apartment bombings and the conflict in Dagestan. This bolstered his popularity and allowed him to surpass his rivals in the run-up to the presidential election. Though not formally aligned with the party, Putin expressed support for the newly formed Unity Party. The party achieved significant popularity, winning 23.3% of the popular vote in the December 1999 Duma elections and lending support to Putin's candidacy. On December 31, 1999, Yeltsin's unexpected resignation led to Putin becoming acting president of Russia as per the constitution. Shortly after taking on this role, Putin visited Russian troops in Chechnya. His first presidential decree, signed on the same day, was titled, "On Guarantees for the Former President of the Russian Federation and the Members of His Family." In this decree, Putin ensured immunity from corruption charges for Yeltsin and his family members, including cases like the Mobatex bribery scandal. He even managed to drop and silence investigations involving himself, such as the 1992 metal exports case, originally expected in June 2000. The presidential elections were moved up to March 26, 2000, due to Yeltsin's resignation. Putin won the election's first round with 53% of the vote, despite his opponents having prepared for a later contest. President Putin's inauguration took place on May 7, 2000, and he appointed Mikhail Kazyanov as prime minister. But his handling of the Kursk submarine disaster in August 2000 led to immediate criticism due to delays in his response, where 118 people died within minutes and 23 others managed to survive a grueling 6 hours. During this time, Putin rejected the move for other nations to help in recovering the submarine as he remained on vacation in the Black Sea resort town of Sochi. It was in this event that Putin began to show his disdain for the media. He expressed strong anger regarding the critical coverage by NTV, the nation's most popular TV station, while meeting with submariners' relatives. Witnesses reported Putin exclaiming, "They're lying. They're lying." He accused the television station of actively harming the military for the past decade as people continue to lose their lives within the armed forces. Shortly after, he conveyed his dissatisfaction with his radio coverage to Venediktov. The journalist shared that he had received comparable complaints from the last Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev, and his successor, Boris Yeltsin. However, in those instances, the leaders voiced their grievances while allowing journalists to continue their work without hindrance. Reflecting on this, Venediktov revealed, "If Gorbachev and Yeltsin believed the media was an institution of society, Putin sincerely believed and believes now that it is a tool." In an interview, he recounted, "That's what he told me. He said it's either a tool in the hands of power or a tool of the owner. Soon enough, Putin would put NTV under the control of the state and has steadily clamped down on independent media." This is NTV, Russia's only privately owned national network. In May 2000, tax police, supported by the prosecutor's office and FSB officers, conducted a 12-hour search at NTV and MediaMost headquarters, the parent company, causing concerns that the actions were politically motivated due to NTV's opposition to Putin. Putin, however, denied involvement. The tax authorities subsequently sued Media Most. While Gazprom acquired controlling stakes in NTV in 2001, Putin met NTV journalists but maintained distance from the situation. Gazprom Media later removed Kiselyov from NTV's director general position. This then put Putin in control of one of the biggest state TV. It served as the first instance of Putin abusing his powers. From 2000 to 2004, Putin focused on rebuilding the country's economy and power dynamics. He reached a grand bargain with the Russian oligarchs, allowing them to keep their influence in exchange for supporting his government. The Moscow theater hostage crisis occurred in October 2002, resulting in a high death toll. Surprisingly, Putin's popularity surged afterward, with 83% of Russians approving his handling of the crisis. In 2003, a referendum in Chechnya led to a new constitution aligning the region with Russia while granting some autonomy. The Second Chechen War saw the rebel movement weakened, though sporadic attacks continued in the northern Caucasus. In March 2004, Putin was re-elected with 71% of the vote. His clampdown on the media again was immediate, but this time he was clamping down on people who funded his opponent. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, the president of Yukos Oil and Gas Company, was prosecuted for tax evasion and fraud. This led the international press to see it as a retaliation for Khodorkovsky's donation to the liberal and communist opponents of the Kremlin. On October 7, 2006, Anna Politkovskaya, a journalist renowned for unveiling corruption within the Russian army and its actions in Chechnya, was fatally shot in the foyer of her residential complex, a date coinciding with Putin's birthday. The tragic demise of Politkovskaya drew widespread global censure, accompanied by allegations that Putin had not adequately safeguarded, or might have been the mastermind of the killing. They blamed him for using the killing as a show of force against the growing Russian independent media. However, Putin personally remarked that her demise had posed more challenges for the government than her journalistic work itself. According to the Constitution, Putin could not go for a third term. However, it said nothing about starting a new term, so he allowed Medvedev to be elected as his successor in 2008, while Putin became Prime Minister of Russia after Medvedev took office as president, ensuring his continued influence. And in 2011, Medvedev proposed Putin's candidacy for the presidency in 2012, and with his party's strong political position making his victory seem likely. The parliamentary elections in December 2011 led to widespread protests over alleged electoral fraud. Reports suggest he organized paramilitary groups loyal to him and his party during this period and quelled these dissidents. During the United Russia Party Congress on September 24, 2011, Medvedev announced his recommendation for Putin to become the party's presidential candidate, a move he prearranged between the two. Russians had equated this prearranged deal as rokirovka, which was also the Russian term for the chess move called castling. Putin's victory in the 2012 Russian presidential election was marred by accusations of vote rigging, leading to anti-Putin protests, including the notorious Pussy Riot performance and subsequent trial. But he was inaugurated on May 7, 2012. He issued a series of presidential decrees known as the May Decrees, outlining goals for the Russian economy and other policy areas. It was during this time he started to employ stricter legislation against the LGBT community, and even spearheaded the controversial Russian gay propaganda laws, introduced in 2012 and 2013. Then he also defined according to law what a foreign agent was, a new term to attack the media. This term had to do with non-governmental organizations engaged in political activities, as well as individuals or media outlets receiving foreign financing. Entities falling under this definition are subject to specific registration and monitoring regulations. The Russian Ministry of Justice holds the authority to include such organizations on the foreign agents list. His crackdown on the media team still persisted. On April 30, 2021, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed amendments to the Code of Administrative Violations into law. These amendments imposed fines for media distribution of materials from an entity recognized and registered as a foreign agent in Russia if the publications lack a special indicator designating the publisher as a foreign agent. These restrictions are applicable to materials disseminated online or via social networks. This meant that there was a registry of foreign independent media. Under Putin's authority, they are mandated to put the following in any of their contents: These materials were produced and/or distributed by a non-commercial organization performing functions of a foreign agent. In publishing this disclaimer, the directives were clearly spelled out. Prakti, a media organization based in the Kremlin, had worked with government sources to uncover a lot of corruption and irregularities within the Putin administration. Headed by the editor-in-chief Roman Badanin and his team, exposed the Kremlin's actions against opposition leader Alexei Navalny. They also investigated Kremlin media control by Alexei Gromov and revealed Russian political interference in Africa and Bolivia. They also uncovered corruption in Putin's regime and identified an alleged former Putin mistress and a child reportedly linked to him. However, by around 2019, their sources within the government started treating them coldly as enemies akin to the Cold War. In June 2021, Prakti became the first outlet designated undesirable and banned from publishing in Russia. Badanin and other journalists were labeled foreign agents, a label that has been applied to many more since. Despite these challenges, journalists working outside of Russia have remained critical and independent, with their audience numbers not declining. But as far as Russia is concerned, there is no such thing as independent media, but foreign agents. To Putin and his backers, the only acceptable source of news is Russia TV, which critics say is just a propaganda media house telling stories in favor of the state, which is Putin's game all along. That is what we have for this video. If you liked it, click on the cards on your screen for more.